Happening today, President Trump in Indiana rolling out the first details of the Republican-based tax plan. The so-called Big Six policymakers are crafting a plan that the White House feels will be endorsed by enough congressmen to become law in a few months. Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management, here to discuss the implications of the proposal and its potential effects on all of us. Joe, we've got a brief outline of what's expected today, and what the president is putting forth is fairly vague. Let's talk about the three talking points here. Lower and fewer income tax brackets,
right,
lower rate for small business, and lower corporate tax rate. Now, of the three, the big news here, and it's really no surprise, is the corporate tax rate.
Definitely. I mean, the corporate tax rate in America is one of the highest in the world, and Trump kind of campaigned on the fact that he was going to go after that once he got in office. So I guess in a sense you could say he's coming through on a campaign promise here. But the idea is lower corporate taxes, and they'll quit building plants in Ireland and taking jobs away and things like that. And if he can get this thing through, they're talking about going from 35 to 15. Maybe when all is said and done, they'll be at 20 or 25, but that's still enough to really stimulate the economy and get things going even better than they already have been.
And on personal taxes, are we talking about anything appreciable?
Not too much, you know, and I mean, they're worried about this being spun as a tax cut for the rich. So I think that's going to be sort of off the table, you know, and there's something like, I don't know, 20% of the people are paying 50% of the taxes. That's pretty much going to stay the same. They're also going to simplify things, though. Right now we've got 7 tax brackets. If they can get that down to 3 and maybe cut out 100 pages of what people have to look through in early April every year, that could be a little bit of an accomplishment.
All right, that said, attempts to reform health care have been a debacle. Is this politically workable?
It seems that they're going about it the right way. I'm hesitant to say, yeah, this thing is going through, because there's a pretty solid strategy by the Democrats to throw Trump off his game, kind of ping him a few times, and all of a sudden he's saying things that he maybe wishes he didn't say. And, you know, you're in the heart of cat fighting in the United States, and if you get caught up in that game, it gets a little harder to get legislation through. However, he's got a team of 6 people that he's sort of separated from that are really spearheading this thing. And my guess is they're pinning down votes before this thing actually goes on the table.
But if you do get that tete-a-tete, are we going to see a rocky road on Wall Street?
I think we would, yeah. The markets, financial markets this year have really not cared about the healthcare debacle too much. But if they don't get a corporate tax cut, you're going to see markets going volatile, and your IRAs and retirement accounts, you're probably going to see a little bit of a pullback, because a 10% cut in corporate taxes equates to about an 18% bump in corporate earnings, and corporate earnings are what drive investment returns over time.
Now, the yin to the yang about, you know, what may happen as far as tax reform is concerned and what tax cuts are put on the table is, how do you pay for the tax cuts?
Yeah, that's a great point. And, you know, he said nothing gets passed. This is another campaign thing. Nothing gets passed without it being paid for. And one of the big ways to pay for it is to say, well, it's going to stimulate the economy and create more revenue. But they're going to eliminate some deductions. They're going to eliminate some corporate deductions. And they're going to try to repatriate dollars that are sitting in, say, Apple's bank account over in Europe. And it's thought to be a couple $1 trillion that could come over and maybe get taxed at 10 or 15%. That would bring in an awful lot of revenue.
Time is going to tell once we get past the grandstanding today and just pulling up the curtain. When do we get a good handle on whether or not this is going to be politically workable?
I think it's going to be, they're shooting for before the end of the year, which would be great, because everything would probably be retroactive to the beginning of 2017. But I think by December, we should have a pretty good idea on whether they have enough votes in place to get this thing through.
Time to watch and wait. The president will release more details of his tax plan this afternoon during a speech in Indiana. We'll have updates on air and online at news4jax.com. Joe, always a pleasure. Appreciate it.